Whenever a film sank in 2000s, it was always flop actor. कोई मेरी तरफ नहीं देख रहा है देखो तो सही. I compare an actor's career like the stock market. Sometimes your stocks are low, right? And when your stocks are low, no one's buying. Sometimes your movies do well and your stocks are on the rise and everyone's suddenly buying that stock.
What point do you think that the film career perhaps is not going the way that you thought?
Itch of wanting to be an entrepreneur started itching a little more and I wanted to scratch it.
One of the most important lessons is to know when to pivot.
The burn was far more than the earn. We were burning and I was watching my money just go out and like, oh my God, what's going on here?
Welcome to this very special episode of The Disruptor. Today, the guest I'm speaking to is someone that all of you know about instantly. But which version of this person do you know about? And that's really what matters and what makes this conversation we're going to have so interesting. He is known, of course, as one of those OG models, supermodels in the 90s, superhero of the genre of horror movies, so actor, model, and of course, entrepreneur. I'm speaking with Dino Morea today, who has had so many avatars. Yeah? More costume changes than maybe movies.
For sure.
And that's what's so interesting, that you have, I think, disrupted what you yourself have set out to do time and again and reinvented yourself again and again, isn't it?
Firstly, thank you for inviting me on the show and thank you for having me in for this lovely introduction. And I think I was trying to figure out how would I be a disruptor, right? And you just defined it pretty clearly for me right now, where you said that I reinvented myself. I disrupted probably my own thought process of what I wanted to be or where I want to get. And I kept disrupting it and changing, like you said, different avatars. Would I be that person? Well, in my life, I would be my own disruptor. So I've come into my own life and shaken things up and sort of made my trajectory a little different.
Yeah, and also been on the forefront of many, many trends. I think that's interesting as well, because one of the most important lessons, and people watching this are people maybe starting their own businesses, trying to find success in their own fields,
Yes.
is to know when to pivot.
Yep.
Yeah, and you've had a lot of experience with that.
Yes, I have. It's basically having a better sense of yourself and knowing where you are at what point in life when you realize that, okay, this is when I pivot and make another path for myself. My first pivot in the entertainment industry was from modeling to films. Right, if that was a big change for me because I was doing really well as a model. And then I knew it wasn't going to last. So just to give everyone an analogy of what my first pivot was, so moving to films, a lot of people say it's a natural progression. But no, I'd say you have to pivot and make that move because you can continue to be a model. And then if you don't pivot in time, then you'll be finished, right? And you don't make the pivot and take the next step and try and escalate yourself into a better career path, then you miss the bus. So that was my first pivot. And then thereafter, from films on to businesses and being the so-called entrepreneur, right? And that was another pivot. And then within itself, there were many pivots in terms of businesses which I was involved in or mentoring or invested in. So one has to know and realize it's not easy, to realize when to pivot, because even when you're running a particular business and it's stagnating at a certain point, and a certain pivot, or you figure out a certain pivot, change would maybe change the trajectory path of that particular business, and that's why everyone pivots, right?
So let's begin at the beginning.
At the beginning.
Bengaluru boy.
Yes.
You got spotted to be a model?
I did get spotted.
Tell us that story.
I was in college and there was a photographer who we used to bunk college and hang out on the streets in Bangalore, there were a few streets which were really popular. So me and my friends used to hang out, and there was a photographer who saw me outside a theater on Brigade Road, and he just walked up and said, "Would you like to do some photographs?" So I hadn't the faintest idea what he was talking about. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'd like to take your pictures, and maybe there's an opportunity for you to be part of an advertisement." So I was like, "Okay." My first question is, "How much are you going to pay me?" And he said, "If it works out, we'll pay you 500 rupees." And for me, 500 rupees was like, wow. I wasn't even close to about 10 rupees at that time, you know. So 500 rupees, bring it on. And I went and did pictures, and they liked it. And then we shot an ad for a clothing a brand in Bangalore at that point. And I got my 500 rupees. So that's how my modeling career sort of took off. I did that ad. It was exciting. It was fun. People saw it. They said, "Hey, you're on the newspaper." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And I became a little more popular. More ads came, more fashion shows came. One thing led to another. While I was in college, I'll cut this story short because it's a long story. And then some of my friends sent my pictures to this Glad Rags modeling competition.
Yeah. It used to be a big thing at that time.
It was huge.
Yeah.
I got selected. I came to Mumbai. I participated. I won. And before I knew it, in the span of actually a year and a half from when I got spotted, I was already doing something in Mumbai and being in the newspapers here, winning. Then I went international for the International Manhunt Contest. I came second in Singapore. So this all happened so fast, and it was exciting. I didn't have time to think, what am I doing with my life, or what career choice am I supposed to make, right? I finished my 10th. I finished my 12th. Studying science, started my degree in BSc. Then I didn't have time. I said, okay, now let me just move to commerce. I started BCom, and I started doing distance education because I wanted a degree. And I was modeling, and I was doing so many things, and I was earning money. I was like, this is great. So I came back to Bangalore, and then a lot of people said, come to Mumbai because that's where the work is. Got on a train and moved to Mumbai. And that's how it all began for me. And this was, I'm talking about 1998.
Ah.
7, 8, yeah.
You know, for 90s kids will remember this. Those were the heady days when models were a big deal, as big as actors.
It was actually, to be honest, it started 99.
Yeah.
Because I moved here moved to Mumbai in 98. And then modeling started taking off. 99, 2000 was when there was that. 2001, 2002 was the supermodel era. And that's when we were sort of considered these huge, big celebrities and these supermodels and doing really well. And we were, if not as good or on par with film celebrities.
Yeah.
Right? As much as cricketers at that time.
Yeah, I mean, those were the days. I think you, John, Milind, I mean, that whole Bipasha, of course, that whole time when, you know, the supermodel era.
Yes.
It wasn't a very long-lived one. So,
it wasn't.
So perhaps that career
Once I left, it was over.
Of course.
Once I pivoted and left, everything changed over there.
You left it in your wake. Okay, let's talk about movies. Raz, of course, the big one, which I think is the one that everyone remembers, everyone knows.
Raz was the super success. Aksar did really well. Fight Club didn't do that great in theaters, but it was huge on TV. So I've had a bunch of really good ones, and I've had a bunch of really terrible ones. But I've got a mixed bag of films.
Yeah. That's a tough one, right? At what point do you think that the film career perhaps is not going the way that you thought or wanted?
You know, I never thought about film career. It happened to me. I must say, fortunately, I got into the film industry very easily. But trying to remain in the film industry and trying to remain consistent and always try your best to give successful films, that's the tough part. Today, it's the flip. Today, to get in sometimes into the industry, to get a foothold is really tough. But if you really do well once you get in now, then the journey is great. But you always have to work at it constantly. I was new to this industry. I had no idea how it works. All I would do is listen to my managers and listen to hearsay and say, okay, that's a good movie to pick because the cast is great, the producer is good. What about the story? well, the story is okay, but do it, right? And I was choosing at that time because my manager would say that, hey, this is a good setup to be a part of, because the director's given a hit film, the producers are very good, the cast with you is great, and you become a part of a project. You get the hype, you get the publicity, but the films sometimes don't do too well. And whenever a film sank in 2000s, it was always flop actor, right? So that was a bit harsh. But I guess that was a learning process for me. And then I tried to get better. And then, at some point towards 2010, the offers started getting really bad. And that's when, that itch of wanting to be an entrepreneur started itching a little more. And I wanted to scratch it,
So it was a plan B?
We already had cafes before that, right? We started our first cafe in 2004.
You mean your family?
Me and my brother, yeah.
Yeah.
Crep Station Cafe, which became quite a hit in Mumbai. When the movie offers were not great, I said, okay, let me see what I can do in the business aspect of my life. And that's when I started figuring things out.
What was that one movie offer or that one story which was so bad that you said, all right, this is it? I have to press the pause button.
I don't want to name names.
No names. You can tell us what the strange part was, where you said, now I'm pressing the pause button, I'm going to do something else.
No, it honestly was, I'm talking about 2010, 10, 11, when the offers coming to me were just really nothing. I was listening to stories and I was like, it's not going to work. It's definitely not going to work. I mean, I was questioning so much to directors, and I think some of them got pissed off with me. I said, don't narrate to him. Because it's not that I was against it, it's just that I'm asking sensible questions. And when you ask sensible questions and you poke holes in the story, not many people like it. I did my fair share of films which didn't work. So I compare an actor's career like the stock market, right? Sometimes your stocks are low, right? And when your stocks are low, no one's buying. But if somebody sees value in you, they will invest early. And then if, sometimes your movies do well and your stocks are on the rise and everyone's suddenly buying that stock. So I realized at some point that, hey, my stocks are falling, right? Let's take a pause. Let's go and rebuild the company and make myself better. Not that I'm bad, but just work on myself and sort of represent myself in a better way. And that's what happened with OTT and stuff. I started getting better offers, and this was in 2000. So it was about a 5-year gap where I was saying no. And then I started meeting people because of OTT, and I did 4 shows which were really good actually, from Tandav, Mentalhood, Tandav, and Empire. Empire was huge. And people remember that character a lot, what I did with Empire. And now I'm doing much more work. And I feel my stocks are on the rise again.
By the way,
as an actor.
By the way, Dino is an avid stock market investor.
Yes.
And all of those questions as an equity investor coming your way as well. But I want to get to the pivot. So when you said, let me try entrepreneurship, first of all, it's very difficult to walk away from something that you're already doing.
Yes.
And that's a survival mechanism a lot of entrepreneurs or anyone in any field has to figure out. When you say that, no, this is not working, let me try something else. So you do that with acting, saying, right now this is not working out. What's the first big idea? Tell us a bit about your entrepreneurial journey before we come to what you're doing now, which is a whole range of interesting things.
Right. The first thing I did at that point, when I was a friend of mine at that point who said, because I work so closely with the industry, and I knew many people. He was like, why don't we do some really cool celebrity merchandise? Nobody was doing merchandising at that point. And this was, I'm talking about 2009, 2010. At that time, Yuvraj had hit his 6 sixes, and he was hugely popular. And MS Dhoni was captaining India, and he was also doing fabulously well. And we had this merchandising company which we set up called Cool Mal Merchandising. The thing is, we invested money, but we at some point realized that we need really deep pockets for this because it's inventory heavy. Online hadn't started at that point, right? It was just kicking in at that point, the online sales. And we met with many funds who were then looking only at online. And when said we were in retail and inventory, they were like, oh, it seems great, it looks really nice, but the cash that you guys would need right now would be immense. And then it became really tough for us because we were burning. We were burning, and I was watching my money just go out. And like, oh my God, what's going on here? This is business, okay. So that's when I got my first slap into being an entrepreneur. That, hey, take it easy. You know, a strange story is when we were looking for funds, and that's how I made friends with Mukesh Bansal, who started Myntra. And he was doing customized T-shirts at that point, and we were always at the same place, and we would chat, and we were like, who's raising? Have you managed? And he had a great idea because he was also doing retail, right? T-shirts, printing your name on it and stuff. He raised his money, he pivoted, and he started Myntra.
You know, he's been on this podcast and talked about this story.
Really? Yeah. That's when I met him.
So what has been the success story? I mean, right now you're doing a host of things. You're doing fantasy gaming, you're doing fresh juices, fresh presses, of course, with Nikhil Kamath as well.
Yes.
You're doing a whole host of things.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about what is going on right now and where the success is.
So I have a mixed bag of interesting, mostly B2C companies that I'm working with, right? Fresh Press is something that I'm pushing extensively. It's a beautiful beverage brand. We do smoothies and all sorts of healthy beverages. We're getting into food. We want to increase our footprint to at least about 250 to 300 stores soon. It's going to be a tough one, but we are trying to achieve that. Our sales are pretty good. People love our product. Now we've raised a small round. We're looking to raise another round and hopefully make our presence felt. So juice is what I'm pushing a lot. There's a really fabulous luggage brand I'm involved with called For Jaden, doing really good business. So I help mostly with the marketing because the founder is fantastic at operations. He's just brilliant. My forte would be that. My forte would also be, because of the film industry, because the people I know, I have a really brilliant network of people, and I think that helps a lot when it comes to setting up businesses or putting people together. Because if I see a great idea and I know who was looking for a certain idea, I try and pair them. So if I don't use my network and I don't use these fantastic ideas and I don't put it together, then I'm really not using myself well. So I'm trying to see how I can create opportunity, look for opportunity, and whenever I see it, I try and attack it as best possible.
So you're acting, you're involved with your businesses. I think Fresh Press you're involved with the most?
Extensively. Fresh Press a lot. There's a really beautiful pet company called Pet Fed. And I'm involved there pretty much actually because they do a lot of these pet events which are huge. And now we're getting into pet food because that's a really big business. So Pet Fed is the kind of data we have in Pet Fed because of the carnivals we do, the pet carnivals, is immense. Any pet food company would want our data. And that data we're using to the best we can for the pet food that we are creating because there's some really brilliant data that we have. I'm involved in that. And I'm also producing, right? I've produced 2 movies. I love the film industry.
But that's the toughest business to be in.
Not at all.
As a producer.
It's not actually tough.
Nothing's working. You hire star kids, it's worse. You hire newcomers, it's worse. Movie halls are difficult to fill.
The industry is going through a phase. All right, it's cyclical.
Yeah.
You're up sometimes and you're down sometimes. I know for sure that people are relooking at how they make movies now. Right, your consumers changed. Your viewing consumption has changed. So you have to cater to a totally different consumer right now who has information and stuff on his phone. How do we bring them to the theaters? How do we make movie going an experience as to what it was before? Or can we? right? So everyone has to rethink. Yes, nothing seems to be working, but it doesn't mean it's failing. It just means you need to relook at it, pivot, right? Figure out a way. I've produced 2 movies and I made money on them. All right now, uh, if you actually, movie making is like any other business. If you don't watch the numbers, you're going to go wrong, right? You always have to keep your numbers in check, whether it's a movie, whether it's any business. So I was fortunate to work on both my movies as a line producer and keep numbers in check, and hence we made them in a fair budget and we sold them at a profit. So it's not impossible. Every producers are doing well here.
Can you make money casting star kids?
It's not about the star kids. It's about the movie that you make. To be honest,
So it's not the Nepo babies' fault. I mean, poor guys, they're really getting trolled.
it's sad that they get trolled. I mean, it's like anybody. It's like an industrialist passing on the legacy to his kid, right? Now it's up to the kid to make the company work or not make the company work. But if the kid doesn't make the company work, then it's the kid's fault, right? Here, if your movie script is not good, even if it's a star kid doing a film, if the choice of movie is not correct, look at internationally also. What are the movies working? How many movies are being made? How many people go to the theater? Right? It's all over. Viewing consumption has changed. How do we work with that? And how do we, I mean, we have to think. We just have to go back to the drawing board and think what can work. You got to keep making films, but you just have to focus on making good films. Keep your numbers in check.
Keep your numbers in check. You also keep your portfolio in check.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah? Tell us about your investing journey.
Well, I started in 2014, and that started again because I have friends, and they were like, "Hey, if you're in the market, I think these are good companies." And I'd listen to all these stories, right? And that got me curious. I'm a curious guy, and I'd want to check what's happening about this guy's talking about this company. Let's see what it is. We are privy to so much information. It's in the newspapers. It's everywhere. You can go anywhere today and look up a company and read about it and see if that company, or have an idea if that company listed is going to benefit the public, or I mean whatever the business is going to benefit someone in the future term, right? And if it does benefit somebody, like a large amount of people in the future term, someone's going to like that product and buy that product. If it's a consumer product, or if it's a B2B, is that business going to benefit this business in the long run? We don't know what trends are. We don't know how it's going to change. But I've learned over the years, just by reading and stuff, how to just look at a company and understand maybe it could.
So you're not waiting for tips from friends anymore, I hope.
I don't. No, I mean, I hear, I listen, but even if there's a tip, I would read. I like to read and just understand better as to what's the long-term plan for this company. And plus, you have some of the mavericks who you can see what they're buying, and you can see why they're buying.
Who are the top investors you follow?
Oh, I used to follow Mr. Rakesh Junjunwala, Mr. Damani. There's Kacholia. There are certain investment houses. I look at also your big financial institutions. Who's buying what? You see what the bulk deals are. You can figure that out. It's all written. Everything's there. Privy to that information. Who is buying what and why are they buying it? You get a fair sense. But if I really need to look into a company, I'll read about it. I mean, everything you need to know about a listed company is there for you to see, right? So I try my best to analyze as much as possible whenever I can, whenever I have the time to read, or you get reports of companies. So that's the way I learned.
Here's where you plug NDTV Profit and say, please watch NDTV Profit for all the information.
Please watch NDTV Profit for all the information, all your investing information that you need, because they will give you the best information, and you may or may not make money, I don't know, but they will give you information. Yeah, no, so it started in 2014. It started slowly, me listening to people, being curious. Hey, should I put my money in the market? What's the return I'm going to make? Everything is about a return.
Yeah.
All right. If I'm doing better than inflation, if I'm doing better than the bank, great. Where's that place? What is that place? Is it gold? Is
Have
it
you
the
been
market?
stressed about the volatility recently?
You know, in September, I was such a fantastic position. I was like, yeah, life's good. And then suddenly it got whacked. You know, so it is scary. I maintain, though, I mean, my large part of my portfolio is in long term. And some of the companies that I've invested in are great. And I know it will fall, but they will come back.
So you're safe investor, large caps largely, or you want to dabble in smaller companies?
No, I've done mid also, and I've done small. So there's a small part of my portfolio which I keep to sort of take these bets, right? And some of them pay off, some of them don't. Like this huge volatility right now, which happened, your mids and your smalls just got hammered down. So you book some losses and run, but they are good companies, but the trend was just everyone was buying, right? And even though you knew they were overvalued, you still caught the trend because there's an urge, right? There's always that itch that I don't want to miss that. So you keep a small part of that to take those bets. And I did that. And you win sometimes and you lose sometimes. But you just, one can be only that careful. And I guess if you invest long and play that long game, every big investor says that. There's no rocket science there again. Everyone says that, just play the long game and things will happen. Good things will happen. Even the best, even Mr. Rakesh Junjunwala at that point, he did the same thing and he took some great bets and he played long and look at where he is. I mean, God bless his soul, but his portfolio is brilliant.
So here's to your portfolio and your own equity only rising. Thank you for your time, Dino. This has been a fascinating conversation.
Thank you so much.